This morning, we're going to start out with a presentation. The Mesa County District Attorney and staff will provide a presentation on Mesa County crime rates, and we'll have Dan Rubinstein and Sheriff Rowell presenting this morning.
Thank you. Again, I'm Sheriff Todd Rowell, and District Attorney Dan Rubinstein's up here with me. We want to walk through what's happened here in Mesa County since 2008 and a little bit compared to the state average. There's been a lot of press about crime rates in Colorado. I think we made #1 in auto theft 2 years in a row. There's a lot of talk about the increase in crime rates, and I want to talk about what's actually happening here in Mesa County. My presentation is going to be on the area that the sheriff's office covers unincorporated Mesa County. About 72,000 of our residents live in unincorporated Mesa County. This first line graph shows from 2008 to present, and you can see a sharp increase in the blue line, which represents the state, and the orange line, which represents Mesa County. This is violent crime. We break crime down into violent crime and property crime. I'll get into some of the individual crimes here in just a little bit. But as you can see, we never saw that increase. It has stayed flat. In fact, we are below. In 2023, we had less violent crime here in Mesa County than we had in 2008. The four crime categories that fall in are murder, aggravated assault, sex offenses, and robbery. And you can see on every single one of those crimes, we stayed flat or went down, as the rest of the state saw a huge spike. And I'll remind everybody that we work under the same laws that the rest of the state does. Property crime, you see a very similar trend. I say our efforts are usually on property crime. It's hard to predict violent crime. With some of the things we have in place, we can predict property crime and we can prevent violent property crime. And we found that those things lead to a lot of the violent crime that happens. So a lot of our efforts, you see from 2020 to 2023, there's a steady decrease in that. That's not by accident. That's us working with our federal, local, and state partners to reduce crime in our community. The four crime classes that fall under property crime are larceny, burglary, fraud, and auto theft. You can see on auto theft, a steep increase from 2018 through 2022. It did come down a little bit in 2023. We did not see that same trend. In fact, I'll show you a slide here in a little bit of the percentage differences in crime. But again, on all four of those property crimes, we were able to stay flat, except for on fraud. We did see some increase in fraud. One of the reasons that we're able to accomplish this is CBI gives clearance rates for how well we solve crime. Is pretty much what this slide indicates. You can see in the orange, it's the Mesa County Sheriff's Office, and in blue is the state. In every single crime class, we solve crime better than the rest of the state. In fact, we're in auto theft, we solve it 3 times more than the rest of the state does. And I say that because I'm proud of what our organization has done in partnership with the District Attorney's Office and other law enforcement agencies. You know, it's not, criminals don't recognize jurisdictional boundaries. If we're not doing a good job, the Grand Junction PD suffers. If they're not doing a good job, we're going to suffer from that. So this is really a community-wide effort. The district attorney always says, remember, law enforcement is a team sport. So this is the percentage changes since 2008. And you can see from 2008 to 2023, in every single crime class except for fraud, crime has gone down in Mesa County, which during that period of time, the rest of the state cannot say that. You look at fraud, we're always looking at ways that we can be better. We have a deputy, Ty Morton, not a deputy, he's an investigator, but he's taken it upon himself to become an expert in tracking international fraud. There's nothing that upsets us more than being able to say the person that defrauded you lives outside the country, so there's nothing we can do about it. That's not true. We're getting better, and there are things that we can do about it. So that's some of the efforts that we're putting in place. You see on the state, the only thing they went down in is burglary. You know, that auto theft, we saw over 2% decrease in auto theft. The rest of the state saw a 228% increase. So I'm going to go and turn it over to the DA to talk about a little bit broader side in this account.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, I'm Dan Rubinstein, I'm the District Attorney. I want to talk a little bit about felony filings and my filings because unlike the numbers that the sheriff was presenting, the numbers that I have are only what was solved and actually filed, whereas he presented everything that was reported. And so looking back to 2005, you can see 2005 was when the Mesa County Meth Task Force started, and we had a massive drug problem. We had violent crime that was resulting from that drug problem, and the felony filings were extremely high. As we started to wrap our arms around what the solutions were to that problem, including opening Summit View drug treatment program, starting the fast track program, doing some of the other proactive law enforcement efforts, running wiretaps, street crimes units, we started to push the crime rate down and felony filings dropped. And you can see probably around 2008, 2009, it had gone down quite a bit from about 2,200 felony filings to about 1,800. And that number actually continued to drop from 2009 down through 2011. That was not actually because we were doing a good job. It was actually because we weren't doing a good job. That was when the bottom fell out of the market and we had to lay off about 25% of the law enforcement workforce. And we weren't really out there catching people. So felony filings went down. And you can see they sort of stayed down from about 2011 until about 2014. That was when the economy recovered and we started to staff up. And both the Grand Junction Police Department and Sheriff's Office, again, are very good at the solve rate, their clearance rate. And so felony filings skyrocketed at that point up through 2015 through 2018, when we were actually charging a lot more people because we were catching all these crimes. And the criminals were really running around without looking over their shoulder for a while because we were so short-staffed. If you recall, at the end of 2017, we passed a public safety tax specifically asking the citizens to help us staff back up so that we could get people back out on the street and solve those crimes. And we did. And the first taxable transaction occurred in January 1st of 2018. And you can see felony filings were at an all-time high because we had cops out on the street solving crimes. And since then, we've been slowly pushing it down. You can see a little dip there in 2020. That was during the pandemic because cops were told, don't proactively enforce. We don't want to have something that results in a outbreak at the police department or sheriff's office that keeps us from being able to do our job. But since then, we've been steadily pushing the felony filings down. In March of 2020, there was a felony reclassification where felony drug offenses became misdemeanors. So some of that decrease in 2020 to 2021 was actually a reclassification, but you can see even after that, we still kept pushing those down. You can see the Sheriff's Office crime solve rates are much higher than the Front Range. So this is actually not just reported crime going down, but prosecutions are going down because they're solving cases. They're having to solve fewer cases. We're getting better at it now that we're staffed up. I did ask somebody at the Sheriff's Office who assisted with these slides, but this is the Grand Junction, the Grand Junction Police Department's numbers as well. Property crime down and violent crime pretty much stayed steady in the Grand Junction Police Department. As you of course know, I'm not just responsible to prosecute the cases that the sheriff investigates, but also that the police department investigates. So I want to spend just a short amount of time talking about why I think this is happening, why we have such a better outcome on criminal justice than the Front Range. And really, I would attribute it to a lot of the things that we're doing proactively. We are spending a lot of time here focusing on mental health, and I know Commissioner Rowland and Sheriff Rowell and Ms. Mills, who's present as well, have done a fantastic job in dealing with co-responder programs, creating the MAC, the multi-agency collaborative, the transition coordinators at the Sheriff's Office that transition people out properly and get them to the next stage of where they're going to treatment or housing or wherever they need so that they're not falling off. We see a huge amount of fentanyl overdoses on people who immediately get out of jail because their tolerance goes down while they're in custody. And so having a transition coordinator that can get them off to the next phase without getting rearrested and back into the system has helped. Both the sheriff's office and the Grand Junction Police Department have real-time crime centers, so they've gotten very, very good and proactive about solving crime and stopping crime as a result of that. Staffing levels at both of those agencies, as well as the DA's office, are back up, and so we're able to do our jobs properly. The Lighthouse program that I created to work with diversion kids has now, the last I heard last week, we had 83 kids that were currently in the Lighthouse side of that, which is they didn't commit any crimes, and there's now a waiting list to get into it, which I need to fix that problem, but it's doing a great job in keeping kids from getting into the criminal justice system. We're also increasing our adult diversion program for pro-social people to try and keep the low-risk people out of the justice system and away from the high-risk people, which tend to make them worse. And then we've utilized programs such as Fast Track and Pre-Cap and some of these other programs to try to address the underlying problems so that people are not out committing future crimes. So all of this to say that the sheriff and I are here to report that while you may hear in the news that there is a huge increase in crime rate, that is not what we're seeing locally here. I'm very proud of our law enforcement agencies, and it's kind of nice to do this during Corrections Week, and next week being Law Enforcement Appreciation Week. So we're happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions now.
Commissioner Daniel, do you have any questions?
I don't at this time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys. I know it's been a collaborative effort between Commissioner Rowell, Lisa, and you guys. And I haven't been engaged on basement level, but glad to be a part of this and fund it however we can. And it's fun to see the results when we work together as a community and we put programs into place, fund them, how it works. And it's great to see the trend downward in crimes.
So I know I speak for the sheriff in thanking you as commissioners for being very supportive of law enforcement and making sure we're funded so that we can do these things.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's really impressive to see how you guys compare to the rest of the state.
It is.
So it's good to be a part of Team Mesa.
Absolutely. So, thank you guys.
Thank you.